So, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Oh, good job. All right, so today we are working on paired text. Okay, that is ELA, GSE, RL9. Okay, your ability to take two pieces of text, put them together, and do what we call synthesize. Synthesize is create a thought using evidence from both of those texts. Okay, so I have a question for you. Who here is really good at something? I mean, like really, really good at something to where very few people can compete with them at that one thing. Anybody? Video games, baseball, basketball, dancing. Raise them high. I don't know what this means. All right, cool. Mass. No, what is it? What are you good at, sir? Hmm? Playing video games. What game in particular?
A game called Brawlhalla.
Called what? Brawlhalla? Okay, I've heard of that game. What else, Delonte? What are you good at? Madden? Okay. What's your team, just out of curiosity? Who's your team that you run with?
Seattle.
Okay. All right, cool. You're an offensive or defensive specialist, or you're good at both?
Both.
Okay. All right. So, in order to be good at these things, did you fail at first, or were you just automatically good at them? If you failed some, raise your hand. Yeah, that's how skill works, man. So after you failed, what did you do?
Keep trying until you.
There's something in between there that you have to do. No. What you have to do is you need to analyze. Yo, why did I fail at this? I failed for a reason. What was it? In your Madden term, was it because I played too soft on defense and I let them nickel and dime me to death? Right? If it's Brawlhalla, was it because I was too aggressive? I didn't play defense a little bit. Should I have let them attack and then counter hit? There's always a reason why we fail. We don't fail because we're just bad at something. Okay? And that's what we're going to read about. We're going to read two stories. One, lessons from failure. Two, the best way to deal with failure. Okay? We're going to read these stories and then we're going to answer these questions as a group. Okay? Each story has two questions. Okay? I'm going to give half of the class the first set of questions, half the class the other set of questions, and then we're all going to do the short response. And when we do short response or constructive response, what does that tell us we need to do in order to answer that question?
Use races.
Huh?
Use races.
Huh?
Use races.
I'm giving you permission to yell. Do what?
Use races.
Very good. All right, so get your laptops out. Open them up. Go to Canvas. You're going to navigate until you see this. All right? The first one we're going to start with is lessons from failure. Lessons from failure. Okay? If you don't have your laptop, don't worry about it. I have it pulled up here. You just follow along. Okay? If you want to stay there, you can. If you want to move so you don't have to crane your neck all the time, you can. So I got these from Common Lit. Okay? And going forward, because we're getting closer to the Georgia milestones, we're going to be doing a lot of this. Taking two texts and using them to synthesize thought. Okay? So get used to this. Is it hard? Yes. Do I do this because I like to see you suffer? No. I want you to be prepared. Okay? This is the one time I believe that you don't need to focus on the grade. Focus on the process. The process is how you get good grades consistently. Okay? I don't care about your grades. If you do good work, if you do things the way I'm telling you to do it, the way I'm showing you to do it, Georgia Milestones isn't going to be a problem. I'm telling you it's not. But if you mentally check out during this, oh yeah, Georgia Milestones is going to be real hard for you. Because it's a lot of informational text. Okay? We're all good? You understand? If you are at the story currently, please raise your hand. Let's see. All right. Everybody's there? Remember, we're doing lessons from failure. So, by default, I'll read so we can hurry through it. But if you would like to volunteer to read, just let me know, and I'll let you read. Okay? So let's set the timer. And let's go. So, everyone experiences failures, but not everybody brushes themselves off and tries again. A new study shows that focusing on what can be learned from a failure appears to help people persevere the better chance of success next time. Jamil Banji is a neuroscientist at Rutgers University in Brunswick, New Jersey. There are two parts to any challenge that may cause someone to fail. Okay? First, there are aspects a person can control. Whether a student studies for a test, for instance, is under their control. But there are aspects outside of people's control. Getting sick could make someone who is too tired to study, even though he might want to. No matter what caused the letdown, there may be many ways to cope, Banji explained. One way is to concentrate on what led to the failure in the first place. If someone fails a test, a problem-focused approach may be to study more or better the next time. But people can also focus on emotions, says Banji. The test taker may feel bad now, but he can convince himself that things will look brighter in the morning. Banji describes that as an emotion-focused approach. So, when you see that word persevere up in paragraph number 1, what does that mean? And even if you don't know, you can use context clues. What does it mean?
To accomplish?
Almost, you're close. Maybe not accomplish, but to do what?
To get through something.
Come again?
To get through something.
Yes, to keep trying. A lot of you guys are saying, don't quit. That's what that means. To keep going and going and going. Okay? So, a problem-focused approach. What was that? A problem-focused approach. It would help if it was. So, it's context. Problem-focused approach. That would be in the 3rd paragraph. Problem-focused approach. Yes, sir.
Study more or better.
Right. So what he's saying is, you encounter something, you say, hey, I didn't do this. Remember in the example when I said, hey, maybe you were playing too soft coverage in Madden, that's why you got beat, because you let people make them. That's problem focused, okay? But there's another one. Emotion focused. What's that? That's in the paragraph below it. Emotion focused. Yes, sir.
But people who fail can also try focusing on emotions.
So when you fail at something, does anyone, have you ever felt like anxiety, like I don't want to look at it? Who's felt that once they failed at something? Yeah, it's that emotion, okay? But you gotta get that in check, all right? Because can you learn from it if you don't look at it? No. You gotta get that in check. You gotta look at your failures and learn from them. So I got a question for you. Which one do you think is better? Or do you think either of them are better? Which one is better, or do you think either of them are better? Don't focus on that now. Just think about that going forward. People who fail can also try focusing on emotions, says Banji. The test taker may feel bad now, but he convinced himself, we already read that, right? No, we didn't. But he convinced himself that things will look brighter in the morning. Banji describes that as an emotion-focused approach. Banji's team wanted to find out what strategies people use to forge ahead after failing. To test this, they brought 30 volunteers into a lab and had them play a computer game. The game modeled a classroom, and the aim was for players to graduate the class. Those who succeeded would earn $10. But getting a player's character to move across the computer screen and pass class was no easy task. Along the way, players faced setbacks that could return their characters back to where they had started. For instance, one set of players encountered an exam. They had to guess the right answer to a test, pressing the right key to move forward. If they guessed wrong, they moved back to start. Another group of players faced a non-voluntary course cancellation. Their players got sent back to the beginning of the game, but there was nothing they could have done to prevent it. After each failure, players were asked if they would like to try again. The scientists looked at the activity levels and parts of each volunteer's brain as they played. These are brain scanning techniques known as functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI. It measures where blood flow is highest and lowest. An area with lots of blood flow suggests that the brain region is active. The researchers looked for which brain areas blood flow changed when the players decided to try again. They found that the activity was reduced in parts of the brain where players were tackling challenges. For instance, the ventral stratum sits deep in the skull and is important for motivation, such as whether to try again. Activity here dropped off when players brushed off a failure that had been within their control, such as guessing the wrong key or failing that so-called exam. The lower the activity in this brain region, the more likely a player was to give the game another go. Reduced activity in this area may not be pleasant since it's associated with getting something wrong, but is associated with learning. As they change their behavior, participants might begin to feel that they can do better next time. So, what we read, which part of the brain was key for motivation? Ventral stratum. So once you had lower blood flow in that part of the brain, what did that mean? You're more likely to try again. Good job, good job. So it's not pleasant, but if you get something wrong, what is it also associated with?
Learning.
Learning. Very good. Learning. And that's what's important. When players faced with course cancellation, something they couldn't control, the activity dropped into a different part of their brains. That part is located right above the eyes and called the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. This area affects how we judge risk, control our emotions, and make decisions. For uncontrollable setbacks, the lower activity here, the more likely players were not to give up. After a setback you can't control, you realize this is due to your own actions and you can't correct that behavior. Ranji explains. And this is where successful people put more emphasis on interpreting their emotions in a way that allows them to forge ahead. So when failures are beyond someone's control, he says, rethinking our emotional responses seems to help. So who's had a failure before where they could not control it, it was going to happen regardless, right? Maybe you didn't have time to study because you had to look after your brothers and sisters. How do you feel about that failure? Are you scared to go home and look at it and tell your parents, or you just brush it off? Brush it off, man. Right? Because you know it had nothing to do with you, it had nothing to do with your ability. Circumstances are just beyond your control. All right? I still go through that. I'm a grown man in master's courses. There was one time where, just recently, I did a lesson like this, but I failed. And I failed because I didn't have enough time. COVID hit, I didn't have time to prepare my lesson. It just was, it is what it is. Right? But I know that's not a reflection of how good I am. It's just a situation. All right? Many failures from athletics to exams occur during our time of stress. That prompted Bonji and his team to repeat their experiment. This time, the scientists stressed out their participants before they played the game. That was a physical and mental stress. Participants dipped their hands in ice cold water while a video camera recorded their faces. This ice water bath, the group that faced exams, still kept trying over and over. They failed, but the group facing course cancellations, which they cannot control, were now more likely to give up. This could mean that when people are under stress, they only are motivated to forge on if they can learn from their setbacks. If failures are beyond their control, stress might make them less able to control their emotions. Who can agree with that statement? Stress makes it difficult to control your emotions. Yes, it does. It makes it very difficult. Bonji presented the new data in October 19th here at Society for Neuroscience annual meeting. This study helps scientists understand what helps people surmount setbacks, says Candace Ryer. She is a psychologist at the New York University in New York City, but she warns the computer game was short, as was the ice water bath. It would be interesting to see if stress and ability to learn from mistakes have a similar impact on sticking with longer-term goals, she said. These might include staying in school to graduate or finishing some long-term projects such as a building game. So, the main idea of this text was what? What do you think the main idea of it was?
Failure.
Yes, failure, but what specifically about failure? That's a little too broad. So,
How to keep going.
how to keep going when you fail? What factors affect your ability to keep going on when you fail?
Stress.
Stress. And what does stress make it do? Make it easier, harder?
Harder.
Harder. Makes it much harder. Okay? Say that one more time.
Emotional feelings.
Your feelings when you go through this is also important. How does that affect your ability to learn from your failure? We touched on it a little bit. If you're nervous or it was something within your control, you could have fixed it. Are you gonna be eager to look at it, or are you gonna kind of not try and look at it? You don't want your parents to see it. Huh? You're not gonna try and look at it. Because your parents are probably gonna ask, why didn't you study harder? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Right? But if it's something beyond your control, you can stress about it? No, not really. It's nothing you could have done. Right? Good stuff, good stuff. All right. Next story. That's when you deal with failure. Are we a little tired? Brains hurting a little bit? Stand up. Stand up. Now, if you didn't put any deodorant on, don't do this. But if you did, go ahead and reach up. I see some of you didn't put on deodorant. Good job. Good job. Thank you. Thank you for saving us, all right? Like this. Stretch. Actually stretch. All right. Cool. Hands down. Behind your back. Pull like this. There you go. There you go. Ooh, some of y'all wasn't honest, man. Some of y'all really didn't put on deodorant. All right. Good job. Loosen your arms. Loosen your arms. All right, good job. Sit down. Sit down. All right. So, the best way to deal with failure, it looks like this story is a little bit shorter than God. All right? So, failure is a part of life, and we make mistakes pretty much every day. How do we cope, or better yet, how should we cope? Academics in the mainstream media, when you hear mainstream media, what do you think that means? Mainstream media. Huh? Television. Like what? The news. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. You know? Those are medias, okay? Tend to offer a simple solution. Don't let it get to you and think about how things could have been worse. These self-protective thoughts usually make you feel better. You move on. But it's popular that the popular wisdom is missing a bit of the puzzle. Does setting aside the negative emotions make you any less likely to repeat the mistake? So what they're asking is, if you just ignore it and move on, are you going to avoid making that mistake? Based on what we read in the last one, what do you think your answer is? Yes or no? No. You need to look at those mistakes. Noel Nelson, Baba Shiv, and I decided to explore the possibilities or the upsides of feeling bad about failure. Even though they're unpleasant, we feel negative emotions for a reason. They likely played an important role in human evolution and survival. Negative emotions tell us to pay attention, see when something is wrong with our body. So if you avoid negative emotions, you might also play. Yeah, so if you avoid negative emotions, you might also be avoiding the thing that needs your attention. Could deciding to focus on negative emotions associated with failure lead us to thoughts about self-improvement and, with time, actual improvement? We designed a series of experiments to test this question. In the studies, we studied something called a two-stage paradigm. First, participants attempted to ask, you know what, let me look at you Sincere apology. All right. Negative emotions tell us to pay attention, saying that something is wrong with our body environment. We read that. So if you avoid negative emotions, you might also be avoiding the thing that needs your attention. You read that as well. So, first participants attempted a task in which they failed. After a series of unrelated tasks, they would have the opportunity to redeem themselves. So this is the two-stage paradigm where you attempt something, you fail, you take a break from that, you do something else unrelated, then you come back to it. Right? In one, we asked our participants to search the internet for the lowest price for a particular blender brand and model, with the possibility of winning a cash prize if they were successful. In reality, the task was rigged. At the end, participants were simply told that the lowest price was $3.27 less than what they found. When we asked half the participants to focus on their emotional response to having failed, while the other half were instructed to focus on their thoughts about how they did. Then we asked them to reflect in writing on how they felt. After a few unrelated tasks, we gave the participants a chance to redeem themselves. In a similarly unrelated task, we told the participants to imagine they were going to the birthday of a friend who wanted a book as a gift. We also told them that the book they find should be a bargain. We found that participants who previously were instructed to focus on the negative emotions in the blender task spent nearly 25% more time searching for a low-priced book than those who had been instructed to focus on their thoughts. So, what are they saying? They're saying that if you focus on your thoughts, you're not really going to work as hard. You need to focus on why you failed. If you focus on why you failed, chances are you're going to work harder and you're going to work better. Okay? Then when we examined the written responses, we also found some important differences. Those who had focused on their failure rather than dwelling on how they felt tended to have defensive responses. I didn't care much about this anyway. Who said that? About an assignment they failed in my class or anybody's class. I didn't care about it either. Be honest, because I heard you say it. Yeah. You're being defensive, okay? You need to focus on why you failed. I'm going to tell you why you failed, okay? In contrast, the participants who had spent time parsing their emotions produced thoughts oriented towards self-improvement. If I only searched longer, I would have found that twice. I gave up too quickly, okay? It appears that focusing on the emotions of failure can trigger different thoughts and behaviors. Perhaps when you reflect on how bad you feel after failing, it motivates you to avoid experiencing that feeling again. But could this improvement migrate to other endeavors for tasks unrelated to the original? To test this question, we had a variation of the second gift scenario. Instead of telling participants to find an affordable book, we asked them to find a book that they thought their friend would like. In this case, it didn't matter if they focused on their emotions or thoughts after the first task. They spent similar time searching for the best gift. While feeling failure can be a good thing, it doesn't change the fact that this can hurt. There's a reason people tend to instinctively rationalize and have self-protective thoughts when they made a mistake. It can be debilitating if you're focused. What does debilitating mean? Yes.
To make someone weak.
Yeah. Crippled. You don't want to do anything. If you focus on how bad you thought you failure, big and small. So decide which failure you should try to improve upon and which failure you should shield yourself from. Clearly, one-off events are inconsequential mistakes, taking the wrong turn in foreign city, etc. Don't make the best candidates. If you feel at something that you know you're going to have to confront in the future, pause, feel the pain, use it to fuel improvement. If you focus on how bad you feel, you probably work harder to ensure you don't make the same mistake again. All right? So, let's go ahead and get to those questions. Does anyone have any questions before we go forward? No? All right, cool. So, 1, 2, 3. I want you guys to focus on paired text practice. I want you guys to focus on lessons from failure. 1, 2, 3. All right? Then 1, 2, 3, I want you guys to focus on the best way to deal with failure. All right? And then the short answer sentences, we're all going to do that. All right? Everybody understand? Very good. So, for how these questions are set up, you have one question, that's part A, and then part 2, you have to find the evidence that backs up your answer to part A. Okay? That's how that works. Questions? All right, get to work, man. If you need paper or pencil, ask a classmate. What's up? I mean, you're not working with them, you guys are working here. I just gave you guys the same answer, the same question. That's okay. Take a good time, guys. Take a good time. No, it is as a group. Okay? As a group. So, like we normally do, we have one person who's a scribe. Right? Hold on 1 second. One person is a scribe, one person is a researcher, a facilitator, like you come to me and you ask me questions, and then that one person who's prioritizing. So they say, hey, yo, we need to focus more attention on this because we're wasting time, and you listen to them. Also, hey, if you can hear my voice, raise your hand. Your jobs, scribe, someone who's writing, right? Researcher, someone who's looking through the text, right? Facilitator, if you need me for something and I'm not at you, you get up, come get me, right? And then a prioritizer, someone who's saying, hey, yo, we're spending too much time on this, you need to hurry up so we can answer the short answer question, etc. All right? If someone needs help, like the researcher especially, then that researcher tells you, hey, I need help with this. Can you find this, this, or this? And then you help them, okay? If you're if so they're not helping you research and you ask for it, come get me, and I'll deal with it. Everybody understand? Okay, now, someone asked me a question. What do you want? You got something for me? What you got for me? One of them again. Thank you, sir. Wait, we have, I want to say 10 minutes. All right, so that's 10 minutes to answer that multiple choice question and the short answers. All right, let's do work. Yes, sir. Is that the correct date is up on the board? Yes. Excuse me. Also, you are to be. What does the directions say you need to complete this on?
Paper.
Mm-hmm.
Well, where?
Word document. Yes, sir. Thank you for that catch. Excuse me. Sorry. Prioritize.
Oh, you're right. Oh, it's like a. Yeah, it was like one of the. You see, it was like.
Like right now?
No.
So, if you can hear my voice, raise your hand. In the question, the short answer, there's a typo. It says your feelings about humans feeding birds. It's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be about failure. That's what we're answering about. We're not talking about humans feeding birds. Okay? So if you're confused, look up here when you do your short answer. Everybody understand? Yes. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
What's a scribe?
Scribe, you're writing. Yeah. Cardano, go ahead and go. So y'all, I got a question for you. I want you to analyze this statement. I'm sorry, excuse me. It could have been worse. Does that statement help you guys learn from failure or not? Why?
Because you did vote on and see if you did your best on.
Yeah, but still, it's like.
So what should we do?
Say that.
Analyze where we messed up and do what? There's something we gotta do to that. After we analyze it, fix it. There we go. Analyze it, fix it, and then move. It's not hard. It's not hard. Thank you. I never asked you guys to type the question. So, what question? I want you guys to analyze problem-focused approach and an emotion-focused approach. What is that? What are the differences between the two? Emotional focused approach and a problem-focused approach. What's the one? Emotion. Why is it important to look at our emotions? Your emotions are tied to whether or not you're going to look at that failure and learn from it. Problem-focused approach. Problem-focused approach. Think about the reason as to why you fail. So, like, it's like a problem-focused approach is, hey, I did this, I need to do this better next time. Right? Say you failed. What could be a reason why you failed?
No, yeah, we're doing 3 and 4.
You're practicing now, right? So then, if you have a problem with the approach, what are you going to do next time? What's part of Describe. All right, so I would be looking at questions that you guys have assigned and try and answer them. Or she comes back ready. Yeah, go ahead. All you have to do is put A or B. Hey, all you have to do is put A or B. That's it. A or B.
So those are like the.
Constructive response? Well, yeah. So, hey, if you guys can hear my voice, raise your hand. So let's look at this. All right. Question 1, part A. Which statement identifies the central idea of the text? All you're going to do is put A or B. All right? But you need to know why it's that, because part B is saying which detail from the text best supports your answer to part A. So whatever you selected for part A, part B is like if you're citing. Okay? Does everybody understand?
Okay, sir.
Does anyone have any questions? All right, let's go. Also, you do not have to write the question. Just put down A or B. Okay? Or C or D. Come again?
Can I go to bathroom?
Wait till he goes and comes back. Who is done with the first question? The second question. All right, look, you guys have to do this on your own. You gotta move. All right, so let's do this number 5. Explain the similarities from failure, why we try again, and the best way to deal with failure. Support their arguments about failure. Use details from both passages to support your answer. So, let's do this. First, we're going to start off by saying what? We have to do what? We're using races.
Restate the question.
Have to restate the question. So, there are many similarities between both. Let's say informational text, because I don't like making you guys write a whole bunch if you ain't got to. Boom. So, who can name for me one similarity that's beyond they both talk about failure? So, we should be looking at the story so we can figure out what about failure do they both talk about? Ways to what? Ways to persevere, maybe ways to improve. Right. They both talk about ways to improve upon failure, sir.
Oh, I was gonna say another one. Like, how stress affects your emotions.
They both talk about stress and how it affects your ability to persevere, right? So those are 2 that we could use. Let's use just one. Which one do we want to use? Stress or how to deal with failure?
How to deal with it.
Let's use how to deal with it. Good job. I like how you looked in the story and you found an alternative way to connect information. Guys, think about this. There are numerous ways to do it, okay? But we're looking for the one that allows for greater depth. And so far, the one that Ava produced was very, very good. Allows us to explore more. All right, so thank you both of you. All right, they both speak about how to. What was the word in the stories? One of the stories started with a P.
Persevere.
Persevere. Very good. How you spell that? Somebody find it for me. P-E-R-S-E-R-V-E. Good job. So, let's find the lessons from failure. What do they say? Let's find the author's name too, so we can. Let's find the author's name too, so we can also cite it properly. Yes, sir.
I think the author is studying Malkoch.
M-A-L-K-O-C?
Yes.
That's the other one.
Lessons.
That's the lesson from failure?
No,
Author?
it's Bethany.
It's Brookshire.
Brookshire. Brookshire. chart say about, how to deal with failure.